I have one more question on good government. It is for everybody, but it's kind of a lightning round. And you can take a little extra time if you really want to. But issue 3 had to do with extending term limits for legislators. It did a lot of other things, but right now, this November, there's going to be on the ballot a way for the voters to set them back the way they were, and in some cases, maybe even restrict them a little more. So we'll start with Isaac, and if I can just get maybe a 2 or 3 sentence answer, do you support keeping them the way they are now, which nearly doubles the term limits, or should we vote to put them back the way they were?
I won't hide inside the Trojan horse here, and I'll say we should roll them back to what they were. However, I think it should be up to the people, and I think the people should be able to vote on it.
Yeah, I think they had it right the first time. I think there's a reason we have term limits. That being the case, there were some pitfalls to it, and one being you had a pretty new state representative every 6 years compared to different groups who have been there much longer. So addressing some of those concerns would be important, but I would be in favor of taking it back the way it was.
Yeah, I think that was the concern, that we were losing our institutional memory, that we were turning over legislatures so often that people were not learning about or knowing what was going on. But I think they've taken care of a lot of that, because when you're elected, you have a lot of training, and they bring you in and go over everything you have to learn to be a good legislator. But I just believe in the will of the people, and I agree with the original term limits. For us running for House, that would have been 6 years, 3 consecutive terms, and that's enough. Our founding fathers did not want us to make a career out of this. They wanted to take people who had built a career like myself, 25 years in education, and then take that experience and go to the legislature for a few years and do some good. So I think that that's what they had in mind, not to make a career out of it and be in the legislature for 16 years is what it will be right now with the current.
All right, Debbie Hobbs.
Well, actually, I was one of those term limited legislators. But and quite frankly, I was surprised the amendment passed. I told someone if it hadn't, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now, which wouldn't be all bad. But when you see things that need to be changed, I feel like someone needs to stand up. And if no one was standing up to represent me, then I felt like I needed to, which is the reason I'm running again. But actually, when they say it extended the terms, actually under the other amendment, you could do a total of 16 years. But it defined where you serve them. So you could do 3 terms in the House and then go to the Senate 2 terms. And every 10 years when there's a census, then the Senate draws for either a 2-year term or a 4-year term. If someone draws a 2-year term, then they can go on and do 2 more 4-year terms, which is a total of 16 years. What happens, or at least my experience, was that when people within the state agencies know you are term limited, that 3rd term, they don't respond to you very well. You can ask questions in committees and, well, I'll get back with you, knowing that you're term limited on your way out. And as some of my colleagues explained, if you have a business, do you want a 40% turnover every few years? When I came in, there were 40 new representatives. How many of you, Randy? Probably about the same number. And so again, you are losing a lot of experience. And I'll have to tell you, as a citizen going into it, I learned more and more about our state laws, about what was going on. I learned who can I trust, who do I need to, question the motives and so forth. Where do we need to dig deeper? And so by the time I was learning more stuff, then I was out. And so I hope to use the experience I've had, the knowledge I've had, to go back and represent the people in a better way.
All right. Randy Alexander.
I believe we should have term limits, but I thought what we had was too short. And I think what we've got now is probably too long. And the biggest problem with it was the language on the ballot was intentionally misleading to the people. They didn't really know what they were voting for. And so that's the biggest problem I have with it. But term limits, I mean, I think people think of that as some sort of a silver bullet, you know? You can go down there in a few years and you can pass a lot of bills. I mean, my gosh, we pass a lot of bills every session. But the really difficult, complex problems that exist, it's very difficult to do that. You say, well, you're going to be there for 6 years. Well, during the general session, when you actually can change things, that's 3 years, and that's usually 3 periods of about 80 to 90 days, something like that. And yeah, you can pass a lot of bills, but you know, the Department of Health and Human Services is an absolute disaster from top to bottom. We need to start over. You can't do that quickly. And the other thing people don't realize, they think everybody goes down, everybody votes on everything, and they do. But to really advance ideas, particularly ones that are new, you have to have a champion. There may be 50 people, 60 people in the House that'll vote for school choice, for example. But if there's not a person there that's really spent the time to learn about it and pushing it and championing it, they're not even going to get a chance to vote on it. And what she said about the bureaucrats is absolutely true. I mean, I've heard some of these directors, now they're not term limited. I mean, they'll just flat out tell you, you know, I was here when you got here and I'll be here when you're gone. And that's true. And you need to understand this term limit is not magic. It doesn't do what a lot of people think it does. The best term limit is an informed citizenry that's paying attention to what you're doing. And your term limit maybe ought to just be 2 years, you know, not 6. There was one other point I wanted to make about that, but I don't remember what it was. So,
Austin Nicole.
I like term limits. I'm not opposed to them. I heard what you were saying about experience and how that can be a good thing. Fortunately, in District 95, experience is a bad thing because Sue Scott has some experience and people aren't happy about it. So we're going to make sure she doesn't even reach her term limit. And I'm excited about that. And I'll just say, as I've listened to other people talk about this issue, and I've listened to constituents in District 95 talk about this issue, they are also confused about what the actual term limit is. So I think clarity is important on the issue. And that's all I have to say.
I've got a friend who's a state representative up in Northeast Arkansas, and he wrote on his Facebook page several months ago, but something that's really stuck with me. He was saying he's against, these longer term limits. He's for making the term limits shorter, and he said we won World War II in 4 years, and that was why. I mean, he's if we can win the greatest war of all time and change the world in 4 years, why do politicians need 16 years to do it? And I just think that's so true. And when I ran, we still had the 6 years in the House. So, I didn't run thinking I could do this for 16 years, and there's no way in God's green earth I could do this for 16 years. So I would support rolling them back. But that's all I got.
Sharon Lloyd.
Well, issue 3 was a big issue for me, and that was one of the reasons that I decided to get into this race, because Senator John Woods was the author of this deceitful bill that was put on the ballot for the people of Arkansas, and of course term limits was one of the big things that that really got me riled up about it. I have to look back and. All of you in this room probably know this, but the voters have already voted twice for term limits. 1995, 71 of 75 counties approved it, and then in 2003, 75 of 75 counties approved it. And when I'm going door to door, the people of Arkansas, they like term limits. And I'm reminded of the fact that, you know, our president and our governor only get 8 years to serve. And so, you know, this notion of, I mean, I understand the opinion that, well, in your last term, people ignore you. You're still the legislator, and I still feel like that you need to make your point. And whether it's the last 2 years or not, you're still, you know, the person that can write the bills, can pass the bills. And so I am definitely in favor of term limits, and I would like to have the voters of Arkansas decide just like they have in the past, and I will support that.
All right, that concludes our section on good government.